Welcome back, everyone. We're going to do a video on adding and subtracting polynomials. Okay, so the first example that we're going to do negative 4 y to the 7th minus y cubed plus 7 y squared close parenthesis plus open parenthesis 2 y to the 7th. Okay, this is in fact a 7, that's a 7, plus 3y to the 3rd power plus 10 y squared, close parenthesis. So we want to add these because the sign in the middle is telling you to add them. So when we think about this logically, okay, there's an imaginary coefficient of 1 outside of both parentheses. So when you do 1 times everything in the parentheses, you can justify it by removing both set of parentheses, because 1 times anything is that anything right back. So we could go ahead and literally write it without the parentheses. And that is the justification why we can do without them. It's because of the multiplication or distribution of the invisible ones. Okay? And now we just collect like terms. Okay? So, what do I mean by that? So, or combine like terms. Whichever you choose the word you like. Combine like terms, collect like terms. And what do I mean by that? Well, like terms are terms that have the same variable and the same exponent. For example, let's look at the first term, negative 4y to the 7th. Coefficients don't have to be identical. It's the exponents that have to be identical. So we want to look for exponents with 7. So we have this term and this term. They both have y to the 7th. So all we do is combine the coefficients from left to right. So we start off always with the left one, negative 4 y to the 7th. So if you have negative 4 y 7s and you add 2 more y to the 7s, then negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2 y to the 7th. You don't add the exponents. You do that when you multiply terms. We're not multiplying terms here. We're simply adding or subtracting the coefficients. Okay? And in order to do that, the term that's attached, or the variable that's attached to that coefficient, it should have the same exponent with it. So y to the 7th and y to the 7th, those are identical exponents, identical variables. So we can just go ahead and combine the coefficients, negative 4 plus 2. Just make sure you understand how to add and subtract positive and negative integers, right? That's really important. The next thing we have is we want to look for another term that we can combine. And I like to start with the highest exponent and then work my way down. I'm just so used to doing it that way. So I'm going to start with the next highest exponent, so after the 7. Well, 3 seems to be the next highest exponent. And we have minus y to the 3rd. Then we have plus 3y to the 3rd. So again, there's an invisible 1 here next to the y 3rd. There's a negative 1, okay, attached to the y 3rd. All right, so that's negative 1 plus 3, which would be 2 y to the 3rd. And I'm using different colors so you can see what terms I'm combining. Okay? So negative 1 plus 3, okay, is going to be 2 y to the 3rd. You notice that y to the 3rd is staying identical. I'm just adding or subtracting the coefficients. So you should not be changing the exponents at all. Okay? You should not be adding any exponents. If you're doing that, then you're doing it incorrectly for this particular lesson. When we get into multiplication of exponents, then that's when we can add them. So the next highest exponent, okay, is going to be these squareds, right? So we have 7y squared plus 10y squared. All right, so we just add the coefficients of 7 and 10, which will give me 17y to the second power. Notice the y to the second power didn't change. Okay, and then this would be my answer. Okay, you're not solving anything, you're just simplifying it. Okay, let's do another example. And we have 2m to the 5th power n to the 4th plus 3m cubed n squared close parenthesis plus minus 7m to the 5th power, no, n to the 4th power minus 11 m cubed n squared. Okay, so we can go ahead and distribute the invisible coefficients of 1 and 1 here. So we're going to distribute positive 1 times everything in the parentheses and a positive 1 times everything in the parentheses. When we do that, everything should stay identical. So we have 2m to the 5th and 4th plus 3m cubed n squared. Again, remove the parentheses and copy everything down. All right, positive 1 times everything in those parentheses will give you everything right back. You notice none of the signs are changing. You just copy everything without the parentheses. And here you notice that a positive times a negative will in fact give me a negative. Okay, and same thing, a positive times a negative in the middle is still a negative. Positive times, yeah, that's it. So these two negative signs do not change. Okay, the only time something will change is when you have a negative times something, and that's when all the signs change. But if you have a positive coefficient on the outside of the parentheses, the signs will remain identical inside the parentheses. So you don't have to change anything. That's what makes this easy. Okay? And now we just combine like terms. Now when you combine like terms with multiple exponents and variables, you got to make sure that each variable has the same exponent. So when let's start with the first term, 2m to the 5th power and n4. So we need to find other terms that have m to the 5th and n to the 4th together. Okay? And when you do that, okay, here we go. We have 2m to the 5th and n to the 4th. We also have a minus 7m to the 5th and n to the 4th. You notice the exponents with the m's are 5 and the exponents with the n are 4, or is 4. So we can go ahead and combine those from left to right. 2 take away minus 7 is going to be a minus 5. M to the 5th, n to the 4th. You're just combining the coefficients, okay? The exponents are going to stay the same. And then the next thing you want to look for is, let's do this term. 3m cubed n squared. So we have 11m cubed n squared. So we're going to combine those two. Again, 3 take away 11, okay, is going to be a minus 8. You know, if you had $3 and you spend $11 on your debit card, now you're going to owe the bank $8, okay? Plus the fee, plus the bank fee. All right? But in pure mathematics, 3 minus 11 is in fact minus 8. You can just do 11 minus 3, which is 8, and then keep the negative of the bigger number, which is 11. So I make it minus 8m cubed n squared. You notice the m cubed and n squared are staying identical, and that is your answer. Okay? So simplifying them is not too bad. You just have to make sure that you're adding and subtracting the coefficients and make sure that the variables are identical with the same exponents. Okay? So you can't combine n fourth terms with n cubed terms. You know, those are different. Same variable, but they're different exponents. So when I say the exponents have to be identical, I mean identical, okay? That's really important, okay? So let's do one more. Okay. All right, so we look at the coefficients on the outside, right? We have a positive 1 and a negative 1. So that means we're going to distribute those coefficients across with every single term in the parentheses. Well, look at the first set of parentheses and look at the first coefficient 1. 1 times everything in those parentheses will give me that everything right back. So you just copy everything the same and drop the parentheses. For the second set of parentheses, we have a negative 1. So a negative 1 times a positive 2 is going to change to a negative 2y to the 7th. A negative 1 times a positive 3y cubed will change that to a negative 3y cubed. A negative 1 times the 10y squared is a negative 10y squared. And now we can combine like terms, okay? So we can start with the highest exponent. Okay, I'm going to start with the 7s. And I noticed I have minus 4y7 and negative 2y7. So minus 4, minus 2 more. Okay, you just add the numbers, which would be 6. So minus 6 y to the 7th. Okay, the next highest exponent are the cubes. So minus y cubed and minus 3y cubed. Remember, there's an imaginary 1 here. So minus 1 minus 3 more is negative 4y cubed. And then the other exponent we have is the y squareds, right? 7y squared minus 10y squared is going to be a minus 3y squared. And there you have it. That is your answer. Okay, your simplified answer. Okay, so that's how you add and subtract polynomials. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and then I'll see you in the next video.